I want to talk to you about a legendary sandwich. Actually, it's more than a sandwich. It's a sub, and a darn good one at that. Jersey Mike's, one right next to my house. Their giant subs just got even more legendary because now you can order from Jersey Mike's online like I do. And right now, when you order your sub online, Jersey Mike's will hook you up with a 10% off discount. Jersey Mike's has piled their subs high with sliced-to-order meats, cheeses, and fresh veggies, and they've been doing it since 1956. Though it will take you more than a minute to take down one of our giant subs, it won't take you any time at all to pick up one when you order online. It's my new go-to move. Try it out. Whether you're flying solo or buying for the family, order smarter with Jersey Mike's online. Get 10% off, 10% when you order at jerseymikes.com/herd or use the promo code herd on their app for 10% off. That's jerseymikes.com/herd or promo code herd for 10% off. Get in, get out, get eating at Jersey Mike's. Be a sub above. This is The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1. Christine Leahy is joining me, as always, on a Thursday today. We go back live to the Dallas Cowboys camp next hour.
Well, they have the Herd microphones.
With the Herd massive, influential microphones. I want to tell a story about what happened to my dad later in life. He had retired, and he just stopped caring. He would wear like a pharmacy jacket and Bermuda shorts and just eat loads and loads, bowls full of imitation crab. What did he care? I was talking to John this morning about John's grandpa. Once he got like 84 years old, he just started wearing a big hat all the time and eating cookies at every meal. I cannot wait to be in that zone. Won't that be awesome? Wasn't long ago, a couple months ago, I'm driving around. Ralph's is a grocery store I go to. I'm driving around looking for a parking spot. There's like a big old Oldsmobile parked sideways. You wouldn't do that if you're 22, 32, 52. Guy walked out. He was like 92. What's he care? Going to yell at him? Going to give him going to give him a parking ticket at Ralph's? What's he care? He's not going to pay for it anyway. That's the great thing about getting old. Hey, you just don't care anymore. You don't care who you offend. There's two groups of people in America that really don't care what you think. Billionaires and old people. They don't care. And this is why the Dallas Cowboys, for years and years and years, didn't have any more suspended players than the average NFL team, weren't fined more than the average NFL team. But in the last 4 years, the Cowboys have had by far the most players suspended, forcing them to miss by far the most games in the NFL. 15 players suspended, missing a total of 100 games since 2014. What happened in 2014? Jerry Jones went into his 70s. And when men go into their 70s, it's bucket list time. It's I don't give a rip time. It's I don't care what you think about me time. It's about I want to get another ring, and I'll do it, and I don't care what you think. We've seen this before with owners. Get into their 80s. They overspend for players. They just want to win a championship before they go. Jerry Jones hit 70 years old. They have 2 playoff wins in 20 years, and Jerry is tired of it. And Jerry was always a risk taker. He always has been. But Jerry's gone from being a risk taker to, I'm going to take kind of egregious risks because people in Dallas are addicted to the Cowboys. And I'm now not just a millionaire. I'm a 70-year-old billionaire. And the Cowboys brand, let's be honest, it's kind of the controversial brand of the NFL. And Jerry's never had more power. For years and years, Jerry was reluctant to talk about gambling. Jerry's the guy that got the Raiders now to move to Vegas. For years and years, Jerry and Stan Kroenke were friends. Stability. Jerry said, hell with it. Let's get the Rams to Los Angeles. Have you noticed what has happened in the last 4 years since Jerry's moved into his 70s? The Cowboys lead the NFL by a country mile on risks and suspensions and players missing games. Just like that guy in the Ralph's parking lot that parked sideways. Or my dad that would wear Bermuda shorts and a pharmaceutical jacket. Or John's grandpa, who now just wears a big hat and eats cookies all day. Billionaires and rich old guys just don't care what people think. And Jerry no longer does. That explains it. So I was thinking about this morning. And nobody's mentioning this, and nobody's talking about this. But Christine, I think this is a real thing. I've talked about LeBron James and how there have been stages in LeBron's career and stages in Steve Jobs' career and stages in Steven Spielberg's career, stages in Jay-Z's career, stages in Kobe's career, Michael Jordan's career. They're all the same. There's the, look how damn talented I am. Okay, now let's win platinum records, Oscars, NBA titles. And the third one is, let's move into the mogul stage. LeBron has moved into that stage. Look how great I am. I got my titles. Now it's about basketball and beyond basketball. One of the things LeBron has done also in this third stage, which is pretty obvious, LeBron would like to reduce, because he now knows it's all about legacy and titles. LeBron would like to reduce his regular season minutes. LeBron don't want to play 40 minutes a night. He'd like to play 30 minutes a night and be really, really fresh for the playoffs. It's one of the reasons LeBron likes the East. He can sweep those series. He can get extra days off. That's what LeBron wants now. He's moved into the mogul stage. It's all about legacy now, basketball and legacy. So in recent years, LeBron's trying to cut back on regular season minutes, and he wants reliable teammates physically. Kyrie Irving knows this. This is where Kyrie Irving is a real nightmare for LeBron James. Who did the Cavaliers just pick up? Insurance policy for Kyrie Irving. Derrick Rose. Do you realize since 2011, Andrew Wiggins has played more games than Derrick Rose? And Andrew Wiggins didn't enter the NBA until 2014. He's played more than Derrick Rose. LeBron now demands dependability physically. D. Rose is not dependable. He demands ball movement. D. Rose doesn't believe in it. LeBron and D. Rose are not going to work. Who else has LeBron James in recent days worked out with? Did you see this story? Because there's not really a lot of guys out there. Eric Bledsoe. In the last 4 years, Eric Bledsoe has played 43 games, half a season, 81 games, 31 games, and 66 games. Uh-oh, he's not dependable either. Nobody is talking about this. If Kyrie Irving is traded, even if you land Eric Bledsoe, you will have the opposite of what LeBron wants in his third stage. Players who are dependable, and he can have reduced minutes. This is now a chronically hurt, unreliable, oldest top 8 in the league. Think about this. As Derrick Rose just signed, the Cavs roster is Derrick Rose, J.R. Smith, Iman Shumpert, Kevin Love, Kyle Korver, Tristan Thompson, Richard Jefferson, Channing Frye. 9 guys over 30. Let me ask you, LeBron is looking for young legs, fresh legs, no injury history. Do you know the youngest roster in the NBA of their core top 8 players? Let's put it on the screen. It's the Lakers. Lonzo, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Jordan Clarkson, Josh Hart, Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, Julius Randle, Zubats, and Larry Nance Jr. Listen, this is not clickbait, but we know something to be true. LeBron's now moved into the mogul legacy stage. He's sitting out as many regular season games as he can. What he's seeking is guys that can carry the load. They just signed D. Rose. He's working out with Eric Bledsoe. For the next 4 to 5 years, that is the opposite of what LeBron wants. He wants young, fresh legs. He can have nights where he plays 31 minutes, other people star, and he is ready to roll in the postseason. Kyrie Irving knows this, and this is where Kyrie Irving has absolute leverage. A 25-year-old, hasn't been hurt much last couple of years, leaves town. LeBron is trapped. This is why these Laker rumors carry, in my opinion, a lot of weight. Good to have you in today. We will go to Cowboys Camp Live next hour. Jerry was a little testy earlier this week. Joel Klatt just got back from the Big Ten Media Days, and from my understanding, the Big Ten is upset with me.
He also heard what you said about him yesterday.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. It's going to be interesting in here.
You know what? It's called The Herd, and I have
Not the Joel.
And I have strong opinions about some of the outrageous claims he made to Big Ten coaches about me. And we will, plus Doug Gottlieb is coming up around the corner. Coming up next, though, I know Trump's on kind of shaky ground. I've got a new running mate for Mike Pence because a coach said something yesterday, and I would vote him president.
Huh.
I love what this coach said. A coach sometimes I've been critical of. I love what this coach said yesterday. He is so right. Herd brought to you by JCPenney. Celebrating Black Friday in July. This Friday and Saturday. Yep, this Friday and Saturday. Save 60% off brands like Stafford, Foundry, big and tall sizes. That's getting your pennies worth. JCPenney. We're going to go live to Cowboy Camp in 1 hour from now. And we're going to do it a couple of times today. I'm told Peter King may just stop by from Dallas Cowboy Camp.
You must be beside yourself inside.
You have no idea how happy I am.
Well, I do, because I know you. You're very excited. I can see it in your face.
I can't keep I can't. First
You're
of all,
even wearing blue today.
The United States men's national team won the Gold Cup last night. I had so much fun.
Oh, right. How was your IPA?
I didn't have an IPA.
Oh.
I had a Kettle Club soda and enjoyed every goal. Trump's on shaky ground, Christine, so I am thinking about who's going to be president in 2020, and I'd like to offer this man is president of the United States, Nick Saban, for president in 2020. I think he's more honest than our current president. I think he has great vision. Nick Saban for president of the United States in 2020. Because Nick Saban went on my former employer, and he talked about college football, and this is a man I can get behind. Because to be a president, you have to have vision and have to see things before all the other dullards can figure it out. And here's what he said about college football schedule.
I wish that we would play all Power 5 schools. There would be no playing any school from 1AA that's not in a Power 5 conference. Just like in the NFL, you play all NFL teams. Right. You don't play 3 teams from Canada or the Canadian League or whatever so you can get your record good enough so you can go to a bowl game. And I think there would be more fan interest. I think it would be better for TV. I think that you could lose more than one game and still have the opportunity to get in the playoff. And maybe if that were the case and we did that, people wouldn't be so worried about winning 6 games to go to a bowl game, and maybe we'd expand the playoff, which would even create more interest.
Nick Saban, president in 2020. Okay. He's right for 3 reasons, and this is a man with vision. Number 1, why is it LSU's job, Ohio State's job, USC's job, Bama's job, Oklahoma's job to fortify FCS programs? Okay, all these schools need to make money in football so they can support their lacrosse program, not Chattanooga's. That's not college football's job at the high end. Who wins with these games against FCS programs? Do the fans win? Do the TV partners win? Is it really good for the players who get beat up at these programs? Is it really good for the dominating teams who walk in, learn nothing, rest their starters? Have you noticed over the last couple of years how good the first week of college football has been? You want to see the first week of college football this year? Oh, gosh, it's really interesting. Why? Because real teams from Power 5 conferences are playing real other teams. Florida State, Bama, BYU, LSU, UCLA, Texas A&M, West Virginia, Virginia Tech, Tennessee, Georgia Tech, Cal, Carolina, Texas, Maryland, Michigan, Florida. Number one, it's not their job to support other programs. These, later in the year, are games that are scheduled. Penn State, Georgia State. Alabama against something called Mercer. LSU against Chattanooga. Okay? So that's the first thing. It's not big boy Power 5 conference's job to save lower level of football. It's not. It's not Duke's job to save Coastal Carolina in basketball. If you can't make it work without Duke, worry about academics. The second thing is, it screws up. There's no unification. The Pac-12 plays 9 conference games. The SEC plays 8 conference games. Some schools like USC in a big city will schedule Texas and Notre Dame out of conference because if they don't, nobody will go to the games in L.A. They got pro football, MLS, NBA baseball. Yet some small schools like an Auburn will never leave the South. Why would they? Nothing to do there. You could have a tractor pull. They'll get 90,000 people. The reality is there's no unification in college football. Teams like Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, USC, Notre Dame go out of their way to schedule tough. And then there's another bunch of schools, Iowa, who always avoid playing tough out of conference schools. You've got to unify this sport. The SEC in the last 10 years has played 420 games out of Power 5. Pac-12's played half of that. Let's create unification, and more than anything, let's consider the viable visionary ticket. In 2020, Nick Saban for president.
Who's going to be his running mate?
I don't really care. I don't even really care.
He can just win on his own platform.
How about Saban, Lane Kiffin? That'd be feisty. I don't care. It could be Saban, Bernie Sanders.
The world might be concerned with that.
I don't know. Saban, Joel Klatt. Look at, though. Doesn't Saban look kind of presidential? I'm going to be honest. After yesterday, I think I'd vote for him. The way the thing's turning out now.
He does in that picture.
He looks very presidential. But I like the idea. Let's unify this thing. The fans win. Everybody wins. You tell me as a fan. You look forward to Saturdays, right? I look forward to Saturdays, but I don't have to pay for these games. You do. You like driving to that stadium in Tennessee when you're playing Troy? You like driving to that stadium in Berkeley or Columbus when you're playing Youngstown State? It's a ripoff for fans. Let's unify the thing. Christine with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
There are reports out now that Carmelo Anthony potentially being traded for Kyrie Irving is highly unlikely because Carmelo wants to be a Houston Rocket. The only way for this to change is if Porzingis is somehow involved in the deal, or if Carmelo decides to move on from being traded from Houston, then considers playing for the Cavs.
So he doesn't want to play for the Cavs?
He would rather play for Houston.
Yeah, I think he should.
I think so too.
Yeah.
But what does that say about LeBron?
Well, I think it says a couple things. Houston's fun.
Yeah.
Chris Paul, Harden, young roster, and I think a viable, and Houston, no state tax. Houston's a fun city. Cleveland with an old roster. I don't think.
Oh, come on. The rest of the time we're talking about how Cleveland is the team that you're guaranteed to win a championship, and that's why Kyrie shouldn't leave.
No.
So now all of a sudden,
to get to the finals.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Guaranteed to get to the finals, and that's why Kyrie shouldn't leave. So you're now okay with Carmelo saying he'd rather go to a team that's less likely to get to the finals?
If I'm Carmelo Anthony and I believe I have 3 years left,
okay.
I know if I go to Houston, Chris Paul and Harden are going to be there for 3 years. I know I can. I'm going to go to Cleveland. LeBron leaves and I'm stuck in Cleveland. Not interested.
Or he's really good friends with LeBron and knows he could get to the finals and maybe win a championship before he's having to retire.
I don't think Melo is a championship.
You think he's more about the fun?
I've never bought into Melo. He doesn't want to shoot threes. But I do think you can mix him in with Houston, and when they play Golden State, Melo and Durant, it makes Durant play defense, which may hurt his offense. I mean, I think Melo actually, I'm not a Melo guy. I think Melo to Houston, that to me is a really interesting fit, because Houston now looks and says, our obstacle is Golden State. And our real obstacle, now that we have great guards, we can handle Klay Thompson, Steph. Mm-hmm. Who do we have that can make Kevin Durant defend? Carmelo's the answer. Carmelo to Houston makes a lot of sense.
Well, on paper, I disagree. I don't think it does make a lot of sense, because all those guys like to have the ball in their hands. But I've said this before. I think they're all guys who have been in situations where they're just not winning. So maybe they realize, all right, hey, if I want to win, I'm going to have to put my ego a little bit to the side, share the ball a little more, and that's why it could work if they maybe can take down their ego a little bit. I just really am curious, what is LeBron's role in all of this? Because he's got Kyrie leaving. His friend Carmelo maybe could come to the Cavs. Yeah. Is he having anything to do with that? And then also Chris Paul. There were rumors that he was trying to get him traded to the Cavs and get Kyrie Irving out. Chris Paul was available, but then went to Houston. So what was LeBron's role in that too?
LeBron's a basketball player, and I don't think he should concern himself with deals.
You're not saying that seriously, are you?
All I know is if Kyrie leaves LeBron, it's a mistake. And if Kyrie leaves LeBron, he is stuck with an old, expensive roster that nobody can defend and be healthy on a night-by-night basis.
Speaking of old, there are some anonymous coaches coming out in the NFL that say they expect Tom Brady to dramatically age this season. They believe it will be highly noticeable.
Yeah.
Why?
I agree with this too.
Why? What makes you think this is the year where we're all of a sudden going to see him age?
Okay, what is one thing that I know and you don't? One thing.
How to be a guy.
Age. And let me tell you how it works, Christine. I literally had perfect vision. And then one night I walked into a steakhouse in Connecticut and there were ants on the menu. When you age, every guy listening to me, maybe women, I'm not going to speak for women, it happens fast. Okay. There's a stat in the NFL on wide receivers where like at 34, you fall off a cliff. I think, and I believe this to be true, Tom didn't take many hits last year. Remember what happened to Kurt Warner after he took one big shot? I think Brady is a bad Sunday, a couple of shots from, I really do think he's going to, when you get to be 40, 41 years old, man, things change rapidly.
For the normal guy, but he doesn't treat his body like the normal guy. Like, what signs, if you're an expert in age, what signs can you see that tell you that next year is going to be the year that he dramatically starts to show his age?
Well, coaches feel this way, and I do too.
Anonymous ones who are very optimistic that Brady's going to show his age.
All right.
These are a bunch of coaches like, we're counting on
when
this.
Tom does age, it will be noticeable. It will pop. You'll see it.
I agree. We'll see it, but I don't know if it's going to be this year. And finally, the Patriots are back in camp, which means we are getting questions from reporters to Bill Belichick, which is always one of the most entertaining things about the season. Here is one of the latest questions to Belichick and his answer about going undefeated potentially in 2017.
I was reading a national publication earlier in the week, and it just had me wondering, would you be more apt to go with a Pearson death stare or just exhibit utter disgust if somebody asked you about your team being hyped to go undefeated this season?
Yeah, right now we're just trying to have a good day here today, get off to a good start in training camp. We're not really worried about, all that's in the future. That'll come when it comes.
Do you think it would have been better off reading the July issue of Nantucket magazine?
For what?
For reading instead of talking about you guys going undefeated.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know how he can do it. I mean, I give that reporter a lot of credit because you might as well ask questions like that. You're never going to get anything good out of him. But Belichick just keeps a straight face the entire time. And you know he has to have something inside of him that he would do that Nantucket magazine. Either that or he was being forced to. It's like his once yearly promise to Linda Holiday.
You know what, man? I've only seen Belichick in person like next to me once. It was at a steakhouse in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
St. Elmo's or something. And let me tell you something. If I ever saw Belichick in person, the first thing I would bring up is that magazine cover.
Really?
I think it's so funny. It's
funny.
Literally the opposite of Bill Belichick. He was posing. It was this gorgeous.
Smiling in this beach scene.
It was like that would be how I'd break the ice.
But
you're the best looking couple I've ever seen in my life.
You know that when you're married, or they're not married, but together for a long time, you have to make compromises and do some things that you might not normally want to.
No kidding.
So maybe she's like, hey, I go through the entire football season for you. I need you to do a magazine with me.
Oh, I guarantee you that's what happened.
I will say, I once had an incident with Bill Belichick in a press conference. I've told you about this before.
Was he mean?
He screamed at me.
Ooh.
It was great, though. I didn't mind. And then a couple years later, I was doing a basketball game, and he was in the stands, and they wanted me to do an interview with him. And Mike Tomlin was there, too. And so I went and I talked to both of them, and he was actually really cool off camera. It was very nice. Linda was there with him, too.
Yeah.
But he did smile.
I know somebody that knows him well and says, actually, in person, he can be very funny.
I'm sure you have to be funny to keep a straight face in that kind of a question.
Christine with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
Went to the internet yesterday, and guess who was taking shots at me? Our next guest, Joel Klatt. He and Gus Johnson went to Big Ten Media Days, and all the whiny little Big Ten coaches, cowherds, me, meh. And you went out there and you said, instead of defending me, you're like,
oh, I'm not going to defend you on a bad opinion.
My opinion that Iowa schedules cupcakes out of conference is a bad opinion.
Who doesn't schedule cupcakes out of conference? Start with that.
Okay.
So if you start with that as your premise and then you work backwards, then you can have that opinion.
Is this actual tape of Klatt? Oh my God, we got the tape.
We have it? I love it.
Okay,
Let's
this is outrageous. Joel Klatt at Big Ten Media Days taking shots at me. Listen to this.
I always listen. I hear Colin. I listen to Colin almost every day when I can. But there was always like this level of vitriol for Iowa that was like saved for Iowa, and I was always like, that's so peculiar. What? But then it just caught me right on the couch when I was sitting there on the show, and he starts talking about CJ, and I can't think of the other player that went to San Francisco.
George
Kittle.
Yeah.
And he starts talking about these guys. I'm like, well, hold on. You just bashed him for 3 years. I just thought to myself, I've got to call this guy out, because you can't all of a sudden praise an NFL team for drafting the same players that you were calling college football's fake ID.
Okay, so John made a point.
I mean, what's
yesterday.
wrong with that? Isn't that all? Everything I said was true.
No. This is what John. What did you say yesterday, John?
You've never crushed the players, just the schedule. You've never been critical, really, of the players.
So calling Iowa football. Hold on, John. Calling Iowa football the fake ID of college football is not, and at some degree, bashing the players?
No, it's bashing the administration. The players play the games that are scheduled. So how did the Iowa press? You said there were like 15 Iowa.
Well, then you better take off on Washington's schedule and Alabama's schedule.
Well, come on now. Bama plays some big boys.
Bama never plays more than 3 tough games in a row. You go to any Pac-12 schedule, they're going to play 6, 7, 8 sometimes conference games in a row. In the SEC, they never do that. I mean, go. Listen, Alabama's the best team of this generation.
Yeah.
Nick Saban's maybe the greatest coach of all time. So I don't want anyone to misconstrue this as a shot at Alabama, because it's not. However, if you were to just go back, put Stanford's schedule and Alabama's schedule of the last 5 years next to each other, and it's like 2 different levels of football. It's not even in the same hemisphere. So if you're going to take shots at schedule, let's just be equitable with it.
Okay, how about this? Nick Saban came out yesterday. Do we have the banner? I am voting, because right now the White House is a little shaky. A lot of leaks.
There was some leaks.
There's been some leaks. Nick Saban for president 2020. Show the picture to Klatt. Let's show the picture to Klatt. Look at that.
Oh, look at that.
Because of what he said yesterday, which is, let's just no more games against Chattanooga. Let's play each other 10 times. I loved it.
I do as well. Now, the unintended consequence of a schedule like Nick Saban suggested. Listen, I'm all for it. I think most fans would be for it. However, let's just look at the other side. To be fair, the unintended consequence would be that you would be taking away the opportunity of football for a large portion of schools, because they derive almost their entire budget from those games. So the lower level schools, even like non-Power 5 conference schools, like let's say Louisiana Lafayette or someone along those lines, okay? They're going to get paid to go play Alabama. Yeah. Well, in large respect, they can't have a football program unless they have those games.
Oh, boo-hoo.
Boo-hoo. So you just throw it out? Yeah. So all those kids, they just don't get a chance to go play.
Where do you live? You live in California.
Athletics. I do.
Economy's great.
It is.
Should we have to pick up the bill for Indiana? Move. Why do we have to pick up the bill for all the other states?
All right.
We have choices in life.
All right. Like I said, it's not a bad idea. I think that you could clean a lot of college football up. My analogy right now is that college football is a lot like a bridge. Okay, if you think of college football as a bridge, and structurally it's crumbling, right? The foundations of the bridge, everything that you can't see, the engineering of the bridge, it's faulty, it's crumbling. There's big cracks in it, but all we tend to do is put LED lights on it. It's look, it's looking prettier at night, and look at the big flags that we put up on this bridge, but we're not fixing the foundation of college football.
What's the foundation that's
so bad? The foundation of college football is that the Power 5 schools are gaining such a wide separation from the other schools in college football that something like this probably should happen because the competition level and the budgets and everything are so different that it doesn't make any sense to have Chattanooga go play Alabama. So he's right. I'm just telling you that the unintended consequence is that we wouldn't have football at these opportunities. So then you're saying to young men around the country, you can't go to college. So you're taking away higher education from a large portion of football players around the country, and that would be a shame in my estimation.
How about just you can play one FCS team? Everybody gets one.
I've told you, listen, my idea for scheduling is better than Saban's, but that's okay. And it's because I'm saving college football and the opportunities for higher education for the lower levels, and I'm making the schedule more equitable. So instead of playing 10 Power 5 games like he wants to do, I'm just saying, listen, go play 8 conference games, have all the conferences look the same, as the same number of teams. So then your 4 non-conference games are very easy to schedule. You got 2 teams regionally that you're going to host and help with their budget, and then you're going to play 2 non-conference games against other conference based on where you finished the previous year.
When's the last time you paid for a ticket? Never. Okay, the point is...
it's been a long time.
Yeah. But the fans pay for a ticket, and under your manifesto, I go to the game with my wife, and it's Georgia State against Tennessee.
Which you're getting already. But now I'm going to also give you Tennessee versus Washington.
Yeah, I think. Let's put this up again. Once again, running for president, Nick Saban banish all games against these flea market organizations.
I will say that from a health, if we are really concerned about the health and well-being of football players, okay, if player safety is actually a concern,
right?
Which it's not right now. It's a huge fallacy. But if it is actually a concern, then we wouldn't allow matchups like Northern Colorado playing against the University of Colorado and the University of Florida this year.
Thank you. So if that's the whole hypocrisy. You really care. You know what they used to call these games? Body bag games.
Yeah.
That was the name for them.
I agree.
By the way, do the coaches in the Big Ten, you can be honest now.
Now
I'm honest all the time.
Do they like Harbaugh? Or do you sense you're good at body language? Come on, be honest.
I think Jim Harbaugh is incredible for business and the business of college football, the business of the Big Ten.
Totally agree.
I think that the power of conferences is a bigger deal now than it ever has been in this playoff era. Right? It matters how strong your conference is. And the conference is as strong as the depth of coaching in the conference. You've talked about this a lot. And he makes the Big Ten better.
No question.
He makes the Big Ten what I believe is the premier college football conference in the country.
This year, I think you're right.
Every conference out there outside of the Big Ten at most has 2 teams right now that are national championship playoff caliber teams.
Big Ten has 3.
4. Wisconsin is a very good team.
No, they are. I have them 10th. And that's 10th.
4 teams last year finished inside the top 10.
No,
what other conference is doing that, right?
Nobody.
And so, yeah, I think they love having Jim Harbaugh. Do they love his antics? I don't know.
Well, you were at you tell us. You were there.
I mean, the green room, everyone's pretty cordial.
But what's pretty cordial mean?
As cordial as coaches are going to be a week before opening their fall camp.
Okay. One more question.
Yeah.
What did Iowa's football coach Kirk Ferentz say when you talked to him?
I'm like a hero in Iowa.
What did he say?
He was like, hey, man, thanks for sticking up for us. I'm like, you betcha. The truth is the truth, and it shall set you free.
Oh, God, that's so garbage. So the Iowa coach came up to say, thanks for bashing Cowherd.
Yeah.
You're the hero.
Hey, thank you, Christine. I am the hero. All you listeners in Iowa, I've got your back.
He's the hero.
All you listeners in Iowa, your state is amazing. Your people are wonderful. You're the nicest, most cordial people that I've ever been around.
They are nice.
Iowa might not be heaven, but it is Iowa.
Oh, God.
To steal a line from Gus.
Is that what Gus said?
Yeah. Gus and I are in lockstep on this one. Again, if you're going to take off on schedules, then just do it for everybody.
Oh, God. You know what? Oh, we're out of time.
Oh, that's shocking. Look at that. Isn't that shocking?
All right. 2 things established here. Klatt's a suck-up to Iowa, and Nick Saban should be president in 2020. Good seeing you. Third.
10 minutes are wrong.
Great to have you in Cowboys camp in 45 minutes. Doug Gottlieb top of next hour. So there's this thing going on now. This whole fake news thing, fake news. I'm not going to get into the commentary too much on it, but Dan Gilbert, owner of the Cavs, not my favorite guy, but whatever. He went down the fake news route yesterday, talking about this whole Kyrie Irving, LeBron James rumor that Kyrie wants to be traded. He played dumb. He played fake news. Here it is.
I don't know the sources of the report that there was a trade request made. I read it in the media. These things are fluid. We think that Kyrie Irving is, one of the best guards in the NBA. He's part of a championship, 3 years straight to the finals, and we value his talent significantly.
Now, Dan Gilbert's as smart a guy in the mortgage industry as America has. He is an incredibly well-connected guy. He's helped revitalize downtown Detroit. He's got great instincts, very intuitive in business, very, very successful. And now I'm supposed to believe, I don't know anything about this story. I mean, I just read the newspaper. Come on. First of all, Kyrie Irving hasn't denied it. Not only that, Kyrie Irving has trolled LeBron about it. LeBron reacted to the news. Now, LeBron disputed his reaction. LeBron said, I didn't threaten to kick anybody's blank. LeBron, though, did react to the news that he was sad, therefore validating it. A source close to LeBron told me yesterday, LeBron's disappointed with Kyrie. If it's fake, what's he disappointed in? Chauncey Billups acknowledged as he interviewed for the Cavs job this.
It didn't really surprise me. Obviously, I knew, as they were doing their due diligence on me, I was doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. So obviously, I knew so much about the situation that the rest of the world doesn't know. But that's unfortunate, man, because he's a special talent. In my opinion, so much of what he's been able to accomplish on and off the floor he's been a beneficiary of having LeBron James, man.
So Chauncey acknowledging, I don't even work for the team, and I heard about the rift between Kyrie and LeBron. Oh, yeah, there's a report this morning, multiple sources saying Kyrie isn't answering the Cavs' phone calls. Now, let me ask you, why would that be? And why would LeBron, according to 2 reports yesterday, be working out in Vegas this week with the Phoenix Suns' Eric Bledsoe, a guard who can also play point guard? Listen, I know it's trendy now to pretend like the news organizations in America just make stuff up all the time. There are news organizations that have agendas, and there are news organizations, especially opinion places like MSNBC and Fox News, that take a side regularly. But by and large, we're not just making stuff up. And Dan Gilbert insinuates that, I just read the paper. That's what I hear. Around the office, nobody's talking about it. Kyrie Irving is not answering calls from the Cavs. Chauncey Billups heard about it. LeBron and Kyrie have reacted to it. neither has denied it. Kyrie Irving and LeBron James are having a real problem now. I have confirmed it. LeBron's camp is disappointed. Kyrie Irving, in my opinion, is making a mistake and will get traded to probably a mediocre or worse basketball team because the really good teams, Golden State, Houston, Washington, Boston, have point guards. Portland's a playoff team, has a point guard. Memphis, a playoff team, has a point guard. Oklahoma City, playoff team, has a point guard. But don't tell me it's fake news. It's not fake news. Hour 2, Cowboy Camp, Doug Gottlieb. Don't go anywhere. It's the Herd. This is the Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, FS1. Christine Leahy is joining me. Cowboy Camp in 30 minutes.
You dressed the part today.
I did. Wore cowboy blue.
And you've passed Herd microphones around the country.
First of all, that's a real thing. Let me just say this to all you journalists out there. You're all going to be unemployed in like an hour and a half. So when your Herd microphone comes to your town, you grab that thing and talk into it.
Colin.
What?
Don't say that.
Sorry. The whole point is the Herd microphone, we are passing these out like candy around America. And we're using, because we know the plight of journalists, we are saving journalism.
Oh, that's what you're doing.
One journalist at a time. Because journalism's, like right now, it's a real problem, right?
Well, depending on how you look at it.
Well, the way I look at it, they're in big trouble.
Okay.
So we're here to help them. So we go to town, and we put the Herd microphone, and we bring real – look at right there. Look at right. See that thing right there?
Wow.
Look at that. When you see that thing in any town in America as a journalist, you just race over, grab it, and start talking to the camera.
What if a journalist has something negative to say about LeBron? Can he be employed?
Not with me. So Dan Gilbert said something interesting. I just took a shot at Dan Gilbert, and in fairness, this is not fake news. Dan Gilbert said something yesterday about how kind of the world works these days and about the NBA and players moving, and I thought it was real interesting. Listen to this.
You know, today's world information is moving faster than it's ever moved before, and this is just not in the NBA or in basketball, but inclusive of basketball. So you have information coming at you so fast, moving so fast, and more of it. If you look at somebody's resume and who's a talented person, they tend not to be at the same place. You can probably look at a lot of your guys' resumes, and probably most of you probably in the last X amount of years are probably more frequently moved than previous years because industries change, things change.
Yeah, this is a really interesting point. And what has happened is the NBA has always been a players' league. And now with the transparency about players moving and where they're moving to, there's so much transparency now that players have more information. I think this is really good for athletes. I think in college sports specifically, you can't lie to a player anymore. A player can just go online, Google, find your graduation rates, find what your top majors are, find when the coach is BSing. That's good for the players. That's good for the parents. NBA players now, there's so much transparency. Agents, players, social media, who's interested in what. So basically, the NBA has become a little bit like acting on steroids. You got a role, and your agent's working on the next role. And I don't think that's a bad thing because I think in the American sports ecosystem, you get a little bit of everything. Golf and baseball are steeped in tradition, little slower pace. NFL is about the system over the athlete. College sports is often about building dynasties, and the NBA is about the players. It's not about the owners. It's not about the coaches. It's not about the GM. And frankly, one of the reasons I'm turned off to movies, it's no longer about the actor. It's about the franchise. Go look at the top 10 movies right now. It's a franchise. That's the NFL. I like to go watch a great actor act, a great plot, not somebody swooshing around in a cape. So for me, I think Dan Gilbert's right. The world has changed. People are more mobile, and the NBA is the mobility league, and I love it. Let's bring on my friend, FS1 basketball analyst, Fox Sports Radio after me, Doug Gottlieb. So, first of all, in this whole, you're very connected in hoops, NBA and college, and you know the agents and the shoe guys and all that stuff. You've always got a bunch of free shoes and stuff, so you know all the players here, Nike, Puma, Adidas, all that stuff. And
you threw Puma in there. That's great.
Well, he knows a lot of this. You know,
Why Puma?
Puma's a big player, yes.
Big player.
Yes.
Everybody's talking about him. Huh. Who leaked the story? Everybody's saying, Kyrie leaked it. Somebody said yesterday, Chris Paul. Who leaked the story?
The more you start to think about it, the more you start getting pulled over to it had to be Dan Gilbert or somebody very close to Dan Gilbert, right? Because the story out of Cleveland today is that Kyrie's not talking to Cleveland. He refused to talk to them now. And remember, this is just after he returns from Asia. The story leaked when he was in Asia. Now, to some people, well, we want to leak the bad news while we're out of town, pretend like we had nothing to do with it. Okay, but if he's not talking to Cleveland, stands to reason he thought he was having a private conversation with the owner, and the owner or the owner's people shared that information. And then you listen to Dan Gilbert keeps trying to make himself look better because he's generally despised in Cleveland and thought of as a bit of a fool in terms of basketball outside of Cleveland. And he took a shot at the Pacers. Hey, they could have done better, right? They could have done better because he wants to make himself he wants to ingratiate himself to LeBron, and he wants to make himself look like he's in control of this thing. And it's Kyrie who wants out because he doesn't understand the pecking order. It's Indiana who wouldn't make the deal. It's not us. I'm not the reason that we couldn't find a general manager, so we hired Kobe Altman, who wasn't up for any other general manager position. I'm so happy with this hire. They're usually your fifth choice. So I tend to believe it's more probable that it's Dan Gilbert or somebody close to Dan Gilbert trying to make Dan Gilbert look a lot better.
I think at this point it's irreparable. Do you?
Yes. Okay. You don't go to the divorce attorney, start splitting up the stuff, and then go like, honey, let's try and work things out. Yeah. Do you remember was it War of the Roses in the 80s with Kathleen Turner, Michael Douglas, and then what's the little guy?
Howie Mandel.
No, was the lawyer. Anyway, they drew like a red line down the middle of the house.
Yes.
That's what it'd be like if Kyrie Irving returned. Like, you can't say, I don't want to play here. Rob Parker yesterday said his sources say that this comes back to Chris Paul, that LeBron wanted Chris Paul even after they won the championship. You can't say I want a divorce and then still cohabitate the same house. And again, if you take just what you heard from the press conference, that Altman was asked if they intend to trade Kyrie Irving, and not once did they say no. They didn't say no. So if I say like, hey, are you going to leave Fox Sports? What's your answer?
No.
Okay, right? Like, if there was any possibility, you just say no. And they didn't say no. And then Dan Gilbert went into some long answer about, Kobe Bryant once upon a time wanted to be traded from the Lakers, and then he won 2 championships. So you never know. But this appears to be not just headed for divorce, but for them not to be able to even cohabitate for training camp.
Okay, so let's talk about where he could land. A lot of the good teams in the league have a point guard. But there's a couple that don't, that would be, interesting.
You kind of spent the whole week crushing him, though.
I don't like the move. I think it's dumb.
Okay,
I don't think you leave LeBron.
Isn't this you leaving ESPN?
Well, who is my LeBron?
ESPN is a very strong entity.
At the time in which you were there, ESPN was a brand leader in radio, was more of a brand leader.
It's funny how I left and it's not.
No, I mean, but it's fair. You also, and like we've talked about this, market factors you saw coming in the future. You're like, it's smart to kind of get out now. You said you didn't leave for the money. You left for the opportunity to kind of do your own thing, spread your own wings, try something new.
Right.
This happens in all businesses. Justin Timberlake was with NSYNC, right?
Yes.
They were crushing the world. They were the new kids on the block. And he's like, you know what? I can sing, I can dance, I can act, I can rap. I want to do my own thing.
That's with Harry Styles. He was in One Direction, and now he's in Dunkirk. Look at him.
Harry Styles?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Harry Styles reference. I didn't think I was walking into that one, but she's right. The thing is, this happens in industries. Did Kyrie Irving? What kind of year did he have?
He had a very nice year.
He had far and away his best year as a pro. In truth, he had a better year than Steph Curry had.
Yeah.
He averaged 25.5 points a game, 47% from 2, 40 from 3, 90 from the. He wasn't a first, a second, or a third team All NBA player. And he was the most consistent player on the Cleveland Cavaliers. He averaged 25 when they won, 25 when they lost. Every day, just check in, 25 points a game. But he wasn't recognized by the media as being one of the elites of the league, and he probably doesn't feel like he's recognized in that locker room as being an alpha. He wants to do his own thing, I think. And everybody knows LeBron's probably going to leave next year. Why should he be the last one to go when he can be the first one to go? I'm surprised you haven't embraced this, especially considering how you broke away from a then brand leader and started a new trend.
Beyonce left Destiny's Child when it was on top, and look at her now.
Gilbert Gottfried left Hollywood Squares, went to Howard Stern. Okay. No, listen, I am pro-mobility. You know that.
Well,
I always support the player leaving, but you have a guaranteed trip to the final. And if you wait a year and LeBron leaves, you're the sympathetic figure.
Yeah, but you're stuck in Cleveland.
No, that's not great.
But you're stuck in Cleveland sounds like the beginning of a really, really awful tale. Like, I was stuck in Cleveland. Okay, I got it.
It's always sunny in Philadelphia. I was stuck in Cleveland.
Where could he go? I mean, I kind of think the Knicks make the most sense.
I think that's interesting. I do.
Him and Porzingis make the most sense. But again, this comes back to something Christine said, which was brilliant, genius, totally makes sense, and I agree with, which is, how come you never hold LeBron accountable? Carmelo Anthony and LeBron James are friends, right? Aren't they friends?
Yeah.
Don't they sometime want to play together? Carmelo is going to be traded from the New York Knicks. Kyrie wants to go to the New York Knicks, and it comes out yesterday that Carmelo prefers to go to Houston. If LeBron James is the most powerful basketball player that we've seen since Michael Jordan, and one of his friends wants to play for a team outside of the Knicks, why didn't you just pick up the phone or just text him? Hey, dude, come play. We'll go to the finals. We'll work everything else elsewhere. He's only accountable when he wants to be accountable. Otherwise, hey, I'm not the general manager. I'm not the owner. I got nothing to do with it.
Is there a bowl of crazy pills out there? You, Parker, Christine,
or
everybody's telling you.
John Z. Billups went on the air and said
you're
he's
the one
nuts.
taking the crazy pills.
John Z. Billups, a smart guy, he came out and said Kyrie's nuts.
He might be nuts, but a lot of people who have broken off from successful companies are called nuts, and then they go do their own thing. You're like, you know what? That was really, really smart. And if you think his ego's out of check, why has he mentioned the San Antonio Spurs? Number one thing you have to do if you're going to go play for the San Antonio Spurs is check your ego at the door, right? We only coach people who have decided to not take themselves too seriously. I think Kyrie, the narrative doesn't fit the reality of Kyrie probably really appreciates it, but people are they're like, well, when Kyrie's by himself, they only won 30 games. When he won 30 games, he wasn't healthy. The team was a disaster. They coached by a different coach, different general manager. Everything was different. Now he's 25. He's growing up. He thinks of himself as an alpha. He wants to be an alpha. He just knows that Cleveland is a sinking ship, and he doesn't want to be playing the fiddle, and everybody else has gotten to a lifeboat.
How about my take earlier that, like this whole Lakers thing, I've always, and we both want to avoid this, is like sometimes there's stuff interesting, but you don't want to be over the type and hyperbolic, right? And the Laker thing with LeBron, I'm like, okay, but I'm trying to ease into it because it's just too perfect, right? It'd make our job so much better. It'd be so great.
Sure.
But I'll say this. LeBron has made a point that I'd like to play. He's moved into the mogul stage, the legacy stage. I'd like to reduce my regular season minutes. D. Rose can't stay healthy. Eric Bledsoe can't stay healthy. Kyrie leaves. That roster is old and brittle and can't defend. And look at the youngest roster in the league for the top 8 players. It's the Lakers. It does sort of feel like LeBron could just say, if Derrick Rose and Bledsoe become it,
right,
and they play like combined, they play 100 games combined, LeBron's just like, this is not good for my legs.
Well, look, he doesn't want to play less minutes. He wants to play less games. And you mentioned legacy. Legacy is important. That's why he doesn't cut the minutes, he cuts the games. Because if he cuts the minutes, that'll cut his overall stats. Okay, so the stats are important to him because that's for legacy.
Okay.
Right? And then the championships or the finals appearances are important to him because that's for legacy. Everything else, I agree with you, he's trying to cut out. He's trying to cut out the gristle out of his steak.
Right.
The problem with the idea of going to the youngest roster is you don't win with young in the NBA. That's why that's why he told them, get veteran players, guys that know roles, the guys that can come in, plug in, play. The problem with that is they are brittle. So, look, what the Lakers are trying to do, and
LeBron and Paul George, though.
Yeah, LeBron, Paul George, and then probably
Brandon Ingram's your third best player.
Yeah, and by then he'll be a third-year player. The issue with it is LeBron hasn't won in his first year in Cleveland or even going back to Miami. So now if you get to his second year and he's mid-30s and now they're kind of coming of age and figuring it out, you're depending upon the Warriors to kind of break apart. Maybe they get Klay Thompson by then. I don't know. you're running the risk of LeBron at some point breaking down.
Right.
But I think what you're thinking, you're basically selling the Lakers' sale. And Rob Pelinka was on with Dan Patrick
today
before your show, and he basically said, like, look, we can get 2 max players. We can get 2 superstars, and we really feel good that we're an organization now that's led by a pass-first player, and that, like the flu, spreads to your team. That's going to be our mantra. We're going to be a team that shares the ball, has a lot of fun, and we want to go out and add 2 superstars. And obviously LeBron would be the guy that they would most like to add, but there's a bunch of others that potentially could be added as well.
I like the Klay Thompson idea. I really do.
Well, I mean, is from here. Although, look, Klay Thompson's dad was in Portland. He would go to Portland. But the big question with the Warriors is the only shoe to drop that could break that team apart is when Klay comes available, does he, like Kyrie, want to go do his own thing, then want to come back to where he's from? And his dad, of course, is broadcast for the Lakers.
Yeah. Good seeing you, bud.
Great to see you. Take it easy on Iowa. They're good people. They don't really play anybody, and they don't play in the legitimate side of the Big Ten. They're kind of false in terms of their. We saw what happened in a big boy bowl game when they played against legit competition. But take it easy on Iowa. They're nice people.
LA's got nice people.
Take it easy on Kyrie.
Weed
He's
all
a nice
day,
person
but
too.
Yeah, Kyrie's a nice guy.
Welcome back. Cowboys camp. We're going to go live there in 10 minutes. Dallas Cowboys camp. So excited for the NFL. When's the Hall of Fame game? Next week. Next week, we're going to have Charlie Weiss in studio a couple days. Greg Cosell is going to be here for a couple days. Very exciting next week. And I think the Hall of Fame game's coming up here in about a week. God, I love football. We'll be live at Cowboy camp. Oh, Cowboys in that game this year? Who are they playing? Who cares? Arizona. Cowboys are in the Hall of Fame game. All right, so I just want to give a little love to the United States men's national team that won the Gold Cup last night. Gold Cup is not a World Cup qualifier. It has been before. It was not last night. Eventually, I think it will be again. What does it mean? I don't know, not much. 4 of our best players did not play. John Brooks, Jeff Cameron's our best defensive player on the back line. Christian Pulisic, who I think is our best overall player, did not play. Bobby Wood, a good young attacker, did not play. But this is the first time in my life I think we are better than our current FIFA ranking, which puts us about 35th in the world. I think we're not a top 10 team. We're not Germany, Brazil, Portugal, Switzerland, Poland, Colombia, Chile, France, Belgium, Spain, Italy. We can play with England, Peru, Croatia. I believe outside of the top 10, we can play with Mexico. Costa Rica's 26. I think we go toe-to-toe with them. This is the first time in my life where I've flipped, that I actually think we have elite players. Pulisic, Dempsey, Tim Howard, Jeff Cameron, Darlington Nagbe, Altidore, Bobby Wood, John Brooks. Now, I think John Brooks has lapses. I think Altidore can be clunky. And I think Nagbe's got a lot of youth and needs more seasoning. But last night's Gold Cup is what I believe Bruce Arena is going to create for the next couple of World Cups. This is a young, exciting team. It's the most skilled United States men's national team of my life. This is not like other teams that won the Gold Cup. We have multiple players, and I believe Christian Pulisic is an international star on the horizon. So this is an exciting time. It got a very nice rating. Last night was exciting. They should have beaten Jamaica. I still have questions about our back line. But 4 of our best players were not there last night, and they were players that I think could have really helped us on the back line defensively. Congratulations to the United States men's national team. I do not believe we're a top 10 team, but when you start getting to England 13, Peru 14, Croatia 15, I think we can play. I think we're very close to Mexico at full strength. And for the first time in my life, I would argue we are significantly better than our FIFA rankings. And I have never felt that before. I've always felt we're not quite as good. I've argued with every Ethan, every Josh, every young kid that we're not as good as you think we are. I think we're a little better than the world thinks we are right now. Here's Christine with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
Dan Gilbert and the Cavs GM, Kobe Altman, are now giving us their side of the potential Paul George trade that apparently the Cavs thought they had a done deal in place before Paul George wound up going to Oklahoma City. Here's what they said.
How would you if you could go back and give us like a summation of what happened with the talks with Indiana for Paul George and what fell through there.
I'm not going to talk about that specific trade, but know that we were active during that time, and every team in the NBA was active during that time to try to help their respective franchises. I will say that Indiana could have done better than they did.
Yeah, I think that's true. Indiana could have done better than they did because they didn't want Paul George to go to any Eastern Conference team.
Yeah, that's always a tough. It's interesting, Christine. Like if you can get. Like, you're a GM, and you can get better players, but then you give teams in your conference a better... Yeah. That's always... I would always go with, I don't care about other people. Like, if I can... I would always take better players, even if it means my rivals are better. And I know that goes against the grain of thinking, but in the end, if I have a quality roster, injuries happen. Like you may not be as good as Golden State. Get as close as you can to Golden State. Curry and Kevin Durant have been hurt before.
I completely agree. I think that's kind of where more ego comes into play.
I agree.
Than anything. Also explains why Danny Ainge couldn't get Paul George. Can we admit that now?
No, let's get into that. It's in the weeds.
The Timberwolves are reportedly exploring the Kyrie Irving trade now as well, but it's going to reportedly come down to whether or not they are willing to move Andrew Wiggins. And how funny is that? Because Wiggins, if you remember, was drafted by the Cavs, and then because of LeBron's wishes, was traded to the Timberwolves for Kevin Love. So now he could be losing Kyrie in exchange for Andrew Wiggins to come back.
You know,
how ironic is that?
It's interesting. I'm not a Ricky Rubio. Here's what the way they have Jeff Teague now, right? I got to be honest with you. If you just told me straight trade, Kyrie for Wiggins, that is a toughie. Because Kyrie's got more alpha in him. He's got a little feistier dog in him. Now, Wiggins a better defensive player, but I've watched Wiggins play 3 times live. He's really talented. He disappears. Like you look up and you're like, oh, he's got 24. I don't remember any of them. Like Kyrie takes over games, takes over series.
He also plays for the Cavs, so you pay more attention to him.
I don't know. I got to be honest with you.
Why aren't you looking into the fact that, like, look at what's going to happen to LeBron here. It's going to come back and bite him in the butt. Because if you're Andrew Wiggins, you're like, I don't really want to be traded back to the Cavs when LeBron didn't want me in the first place. And now LeBron's going to get another player who probably doesn't like him very much. LeBron's losing friends.
If Kyrie ends up in Minnesota, that is a facial. I got to be honest. That would be strong. If you left LeBron and I get Jimmy Butler and Karl Anthony Towns, that's a good club.
You're not even acknowledging my point.
No, you're not. You're not acknowledging it. I cannot believe you're up for an Emmy and you're going to go to the real Emmy show. That's 3 days ago. I can't get over it.
Because what you won't acknowledge is that LeBron might be putting himself in a really bad place.
I'm not going to acknowledge that.
I know you won't.
I'm not going to acknowledge that. I think that's hijinks and tomfoolery.
It's a lot of facts being
So you're going to be on the Emmy show that's televised?
Yes.
God, that's amazing to me.
I was last year, too.
I don't remember that.
With Jimmy Kimmel, who hosted it.
Are you sure you're not on like an Emmy show that's like... It's like a streaming... It's streamed.
There's no Emmys that are streaming.
You're going to be on the Oscars, Emmys. Yes. I am fascinated by that.
The Oscars are the Oscars and the Emmys are the Emmys, but yes... The Emmys were nominated.
All right. I got to get a Cowboy Kemp
Maybe before the awards actually happen, you could watch an episode so you can weigh in. Maybe influence the voters. Help a colleague out.
Pipe dream there.
And finally, Floyd Mayweather is reportedly trying to recruit Nate Diaz to be in his fight corner against Conor McGregor.
That's funny.
I like it, and it is smart. Diaz beat McGregor once, and Conor won by decision in the second time.
That's a really interesting ploy.
Yeah, I mean, you can't use MMA anything during the fight, so he wouldn't be able to help him in that way, but I'm sure he could help Floyd figure out how to get in his head.
No, that's actually very, very smart. That's a really interesting ploy.
Like, does Conor hire, like, Pacquiao?
Not really in his head. You dominated him.
Yeah, I don't know what the flip side of that would be, but hey, I'm not going to knock it. I like it.
Emmy-nominated Christine with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
He is a long-time popular columnist at one of the last great American newspapers, the Dallas Morning News. He's on radio in Dallas, well-connected, smart, great writer. You see him at my former employer, and he's been kind enough via the Cowherd Global Satellite Network to join us live. Tim Cowlishaw. Look at that. I don't get Tim Cowlishaw on my show very much. He looks fantastic in those sunglasses. Tim, how many camps have you been to for the Cowboys? What is this, like 18, 20 or something?
No, I think it's closer to 30. My first was 1986 in Thousand Oaks. Now, I haven't gone every year since because I covered the Dallas Stars for 3 years. But we're in the 28 camp range.
I'm going to throw something at you. I said this earlier. There's two groups of people that don't care what you think about them. Billionaires and old people. You know, they just don't give a rip. When Jerry turned 70, the Cowboys, Tim, didn't have any more suspensions than anybody else. They just didn't. But in the last 4 years, Jerry's in his 70s, and they have by far the most players suspended. I'm going to throw my theory out to you, that Jerry hit 70. He doesn't give a rip anymore. He helped move a team from Oakland to Vegas, which he pushed back on for years. He told Kroenke to move to L.A., and he's taking more risks now because he doesn't care. That I think Jerry's getting to the point where he's aging, it's not going to last forever, and he's taking more risks on personnel. Is it a crazy theory?
No, that's a pretty good theory. I hadn't thought of it in those terms because, I mean, they've had different periods since Jerry got here where they had suspended players, and they went for long stretches where they really didn't. There has been a significant increase. I hadn't related it to his 70th birthday, but there's no question, he wants to, he's done everything. He's on his way to Canton, for God's sakes, next week to go into the Hall of Fame, but he wants to get another ring completely divorced from the Jimmy Johnson era or Jimmy Johnson players, and he hasn't been able to do that. And so, yeah, he's taken a few risks.
Tim Cowlishaw from the Cowboys camp in Oxnard. You know, Tim, camps feel different. And I want you, because of your experience, you've had a Tony Romo camp, and this is a Dak camp. Do they feel different to you?
I'm having a little trouble hearing because they just started up an engine.
No, that's okay.
Over here.
I'm going to ask it again. You've been to a lot of Dallas Cowboy camps. Does a Tony Romo camp feel different than a Dak Prescott camp?
Yeah, that's a great question. We were just talking about on the radio, kind of taking Dak for granted that he's just the quarterback now and they've moved on and Romo's forgotten. But it does feel different, and it should feel different. I mean, Dak is still going to make mistakes. There's no way in the world he's going to have 4 interceptions if he plays 15 games again this year. Romo threw interceptions, but there was I guess a security of him making plays with Dez, even though it never worked out in the playoffs. You knew you had a Pro Bowl type quarterback. They think they have that now, but it does feel different now. If he continues just on kind of the same pattern he took last year, though, it's really more of the modern NFL. You know, stay away. Teams don't want Brent Favre. They don't want risk takers, gunslingers. They want the guy, and now they've loaded up on slot receivers. They may lead the league in 5-yard passes this year, but they might make it work.
Tim Cowlishaw joining us live from Dallas Cowboy Camp. This sounds almost like a ridiculous question when you consider last year's success. I like the head coach of the Cowboys. I like Jason, but the schedule this year, Tim, it's brutal. It is rough. It is a first-place schedule. They face 9, 10 Pro Bowl level quarterbacks or really good quarterbacks. And they're now a target. They're not sneaking up on anybody. If Jason Garrett let's say they go 9-7, but they miss the playoffs, and I think they're going to be around that. Would Jason Garrett be in any trouble?
I don't think so. Not at 9-7. I think things would really have to. I think the wheels would have to come off like they did 2 years ago. I think Jerry likes this. Believe it or not, Jerry likes the stability at head coach. He never had much prior to this, but Garrett has coached his team longer than anybody other than Tom Landry by quite a margin.
Wow!
And that's hard to figure. But 9-7, I don't think, because I think if they have a good year, they could easily be as good as they were last year and go 10-6 with this schedule. And maybe that wins the East, or maybe maybe that's a wild card.
Tim Kalishaw, Cowboy Camp, joining us, long-time respected journalist in Dallas and nationally as well. Tim, when, it's funny that, Ezekiel's young and he is out of this world, and Dak is young and terrific. They're not going anywhere. But you look at Des Bryant, and there are times he can check out of games. He's a really interesting player because when he scores a touchdown, Tim, the Cowboys win 2 out of 3 times. He absolutely equals wins when he's successful. But he is high maintenance at times. He is demanding of a young quarterback. Kind of take me, if I said 2 years from now, of these 3 young stars, do you think Dak, Dez, and Ezekiel are still together in your opinion?
Great question. Dak and Zeke will be here unless something really goes the wrong way with Zeke off the field. Dez, he signed the 5-year deal. The first 2 years, he has not produced to the level of his contract.
Right.
I still think he's capable of it. I think this is really the first time he and Dak have had a chance to work together. If you think about last year, Dez wasn't doing much in the offseason, but he certainly wasn't working with Dak Prescott, the third-string quarterback, when he was. So I think he's got a better chance to lift his numbers up a little bit. I don't think he's going to get into the Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, Beckham class. I think he's a top 10 receiver. And as long as he's doing that 2 years from now, all 3 of them could still be together for sure.
And finally, Jason Garrett a couple days ago kind of went on autopilot and kept answering the Lucky Whitehead question the same way over and over. Took a lot of heat in the dial.
You noticed that.
Yeah,
yes.
And it was kind of embarrassing. Listen, I just sat there and I thought to myself, that was pretty embarrassing for Jason. It was like he was a puppet for Jerry. And he never says it. He's got a very even temperament. Do you think there are times that Garrett is really frustrated with Jerry Jones?
I do. I think yesterday, was that 2 days ago?
2 days ago.
That was more, 2 days ago, was more frustration with the whole situation. I mean, they cut a player who was a marginal player and had a long shot to make the team after they drafted Ryan Switzer. And he had some past stuff that was more swept under the rug. Now he had an arrest, they thought, so they cut him. They were going to get tough for a change. It turns out he wasn't really arrested. They looked silly at best. But there was no way to bring him back. But still, the idea of handling the press conference that way, that was a very Belichickian way to do it, one of Garrett's role models. And Belichick can get away with it because when you got 5 rings, you do what you want. Jason can't get away with that, and he knows that now. I'd be very surprised if he tries that again anytime this year.
One final question, a newsworthy question. Ronnie Hillman signed with the Cowboys running back. Does that mean they think Zeke's going to be suspended?
I think they're covering themselves in case he is. I think it definitely relates to that because if you think about if you might not have Zeke for the opener, you seriously need Darren McFadden for the opener. You got 5 preseason games. You don't want to use Darren McFadden much in those games. So now you're down to Alfred Morris and really a guy who's more of a fullback, Rod Smith, who can play some running back, Jalen Smith's brother. And they don't have anything beyond that. So they needed depth if you're going to have to protect not just Zeke, but you're going to have to protect McFadden in this long preseason. So it definitely relates to that.
Respected journalist, great American newspaper, and he's holding the herd.
Can I take this microphone? Can I use this microphone on Around the Horn? Would that be okay?
I don't think your bosses would like that over there. Timmy, thank you so much.
You bet.
All right, Tim Kalishaw, terrific reporter and columnist and TV personality. I don't think that'd fly over there.
I don't think so.
I'm telling you, you American journalists right now fighting for your collective lives. When the herd microphone is in your town, you grab it, you seize it, you talk into it right at the camera. We are going to save one journalist at a time.
Well, you want them to not be journalists anymore.
No, Tim was a journalist right there. Tim gave himself another couple years in his career right there. America was watching. He was good. He had news. He had opinions. You should hire Tim Kalishaw, America.
He has a job.
You never know with journalism these days. A very sad thing going on. I'm just telling you, let's make American journalism great again.
Yeah, let's let them write.
Yeah. Anyway. All right, I'm going to take a break. It's the herd. Welcome back. It's nice to have you. What a show today. We got live at Dallas Cowboy Camp. That was exciting. NBA stuff happening. It's me against the world on this LeBron-Kyrie thing. It's me and Chauncey Billups against the world. We think Kyrie's out of his gourd, and you guys are all like, oh, what a great move. Let's leave LeBron in the NBA Finals, guaranteed.
You know, Doug made a really good point when he was out here that I hadn't thought about
quite
yet.
I didn't hear his good points. Go ahead.
You, of all people, should understand why Kyrie is doing what he's doing.
Because I left a company?
Yeah.
Yeah, but who was my LeBron? I didn't leave LeBron.
Well, at the time, I think ESPN was the leader in
sports
television.
As far as $8 billion a year they still make, they'd still be considered a leader.
Right. So you left that and security to come here.
Yeah,
start
I left some
new.
security.
You wanted to come out on your own, try things by yourself.
Yeah, that's kind of a loose connection there.
No, I don't think so. I think it's actually a really strong one.
No.
Yeah, I think it's true. And the more you're thinking about it, we got you.
Listen, I'm pro mobility.
Yeah.
I have always defended players over owners. I mean, I always tell you my story on Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant goes to the NBA and has an owner, Howard Schultz, who's worth billions. He really changes the American afternoons. We now go and have coffee at a little store. Everybody in America our parents didn't go to a store to drink Folgers. They were at home in the kitchen. So he's worth billions, and he won't put like $20 million into an arena, like 1% of his net worth. So they move it to a town with silos. And Kevin Durant's like, what? And then they don't keep James Harden because the new rich owner doesn't want to pay a teeny salary cap tax. And so Kevin Durant looks up one day and goes, the rich guys have no loyalty to anybody. Why should I stay here in Oklahoma City?
Well, so you're admitting now that it's for those reasons and not for Russell Westbrook?
No, but in that instance, Kevin Durant left because analytics proved he would be more efficient elsewhere instead of Westbrook. Kyrie Irving's numbers, without LeBron with him, have never been better. Like, Kyrie is leaving efficiency, a championship run guaranteed. He's leaving LeBron James.
Yeah, but you're a guy who always says that, like, stats aren't everything. So maybe for Kyrie, stats aren't everything.
Well, then what? Okay, so he's getting money in Cleveland. He's getting to the championship final in Cleveland. He's getting a shoot contract, and he's winning it. What's not being satisfied?
He's not happy. He feels like he can't trust LeBron. LeBron reportedly tried to get him
Who can you trust?
Not many people, but for Kyrie, if he's like, hey, I've been here for a while, I've got my ring, I kind of want to go do something on my own, be my own man, be happy.
Do you trust? Do you tell your boyfriend everything?
Yeah.
Oh, you do not.
Of course I do.
You do not. I was in Peru last weekend, didn't even tell my wife.
That's not true.
You
can't. In Peru.
You can't. Nobody tells.
Yes,
LeBron's supposed to tell Kyrie every little thing.
Oh, I'm trying to get you traded? That's not a little thing.
God, you guys.
No, I think it's just that happiness is defined differently for every person. And for Kyrie, if he just wants to go do his own thing, and you've admitted to me, you think the Cavs organization is
yesterday.
Bit of a mess.
Yesterday you said this. You said, "Well, you don't know. You don't want to speak for yourself." Mm-hmm. And your argument was, "Well, you don't know what Kyrie's dreams are."
True.
They're not to play for Memphis. I bet his dreams are get to the finals, have a shoe contract, be a star, be on the cover of the mag.
He already has a championship. He already has a great shoe deal.
So you don't. By the way, I had a really good year this year. I don't want another one.
But
who roots for? That's everybody.
No, it's not.
Did you have a good year with your boyfriend? Are you rooting for a breakup tomorrow?
No.
Who roots for a bad year after a great year?
You're not rooting for a bad year. You're rooting for something else to fulfill you in a different way.
I think if you told me as an NBA player, even like a star, okay, you're going to get to the finals. You play with a guy who may be the best ever, but he's actually a giver, not a taker. Your efficiency numbers are great. You have a shoe deal because, by the way, you know how you got that shoe deal now? Because you're always on TV in June playing in the finals, which is what the Nike and Adidas all want. I mean,
have you ever worked with a diva?
No.
Oh,
never.
I kind of set you up for that. You know I'm not. But have you ever worked with a diva?
I've been very lucky.
I haven't got maybe not side by side, but maybe in the company there was a huge diva who just got so much of the attention and needy.
I've been lucky. I've worked with good people.
You've never worked with a diva. Now you're not telling me the truth.
No, I'm thinking about my career. No, I don't.
Not like on the show together, maybe, but in the company, maybe there was somebody who.
I haven't. I've never worked with a diva.
Wow.
I know, it's amazing. Have you? Boom! Right back at me.
Yeah.
So you have?
Yeah.
Those jerks at NBC on that ninja show?
No. No.
First of all ninjas are divas. I mean, that's understood in the ecosystem of ninjas.
They are not divas, I'll tell you that. But no, it's frustrating sometimes when you see someone that just needs and controls everything, and you want to get away from it.
You've heard the saying, grass is always greener.
Absolutely. But let him try it. He's 25.
Kyrie's
you
life
can only
now.
You only will learn the things you want to learn. So Kyrie maybe needs to go and experience this.
Yeah.
He's 25 years old.
Yeah.
He's not your age. Remember, you
What
told
does
me
that
earlier,
mean?
the only thing that you're better at than me is knowing age.
I just think, man, there's a lot of places in this league that are way worse than playing with LeBron. How about all of them except Golden State?
Well, then why isn't Carmelo there, and why isn't Chris Paul there?
I think Chris Paul thinks he can get. I will say this part is true, is that LeBron's passive aggressive. He's been cryptic in his tweets. It is. He's the opposite of Michael Jordan or Kobe, who are overly aggressive, hyper aggressive, punch teammates, almost too verbose, which is a great quality, and it can be a headache. LeBron tends to be a little more giver, a little more reluctant, a little more passive-aggressive. It's a very fair criticism of him.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, there are times I like both. I'd rather you be authentic. There are times LeBron could be a little more authentic. Your best argument, and it's true, Kyrie's sitting there thinking, LeBron has a history of just bouncing around the league. I won't get stuck here. That part's legitimate, but I still contend that if LeBron left and Kyrie stayed, Kyrie would be the sympathetic figure.
In a bad organization.
Yeah, it wouldn't be great. It wouldn't be great. So there we go.
Did I get you?
Why? It's not about being right. It's not about getting each other. What do you mean, did you get me?
No, because I'm starting to see you coming to my side here. And Rob Parker and Doug Gottlieb's side. It's okay.
Listen.
You're just
Rob
figuring
Parker,
out what's right and agreeing with all of us.
I think staying with LeBron is generally, in my opinion, it's like Tom Brady or a wide receiver. Just as long as you can play with Tom, you play with Tom, and you let the chips roll. We got a third hour coming up. Don't go anywhere. It's The Herd. This is The Herd. Wherever you may be, however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, FS1. Christine Leahy is joining me today with a smile on her face, getting ready for the Emmys, and also she thinks she won an argument.
I think, this is the biggest argument we've had for the whole week. And I think you're finally starting to see what's right.
I don't.
It just makes me really happy because you don't really change your mind often.
See,
and I think you're changing your mind.
I root for your happiness. You root for my demise.
No, I just root for you to see the true colors of the world.
You're not a fan of LeBron as much as I am.
Yes.
That's fair.
That's fair.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I want to touch on this briefly. Colin Kaepernick, Joe Flacco may miss 6 weeks the preseason for the Ravens, and John Harbaugh may go out and get Colin Kaepernick. I don't think anybody's going to build around Kaepernick. I think this is an overheated story where reporters are showing in sports their political bias. I think Kaepernick is Tebow with a political cause. I don't think he's a franchise guy. I think he's a backup at this point. But John Harbaugh says we may pick him up. Here's the coach.
I've known Colin really, through my brother for many years. And we've talked and then got to know him really well when they scrimmaged here. And he and I have been talking, throughout the summer a number of times. And we've had some great conversations on the phone. I mean, it's really been a pleasure to talk to him and get to know him. And, I like history and politics and stuff too. So, we've had some debates and it's been fun. And he's a great guy. And he's a guy right now that's being talked about. And we'll just see what happens with that. I think that's it'll all be speculation right now. But I think he's a really good football player. And as I said at the owners' meetings, I do believe he'll be playing in the National Football League this year.
Totally think he will. 69 guys. I looked it up this morning. 69 guys in the NFL took a snap last year. It's like 90 if you count everybody that threw a pass, which is running backs and flea flickers and stuff. So 69 guys threw a pass. My gut feeling is he'll be picked up at some time. And Jim Harbaugh have a connection. Jim coached him. So there you go on that story. Also, let me let's start. Let me start with this. I want to tell a story about what happened to my dad later in life. He had retired, and he just stopped caring. He would wear like a pharmacy jacket and Bermuda shorts and just eat loads and loads, bowls full of imitation crab. What did he care? I was talking to John this morning about John's grandpa. Once he got like 84 years old, he just started wearing a big hat all the time and eating cookies at every meal. I cannot wait to be in that zone. Won't that be awesome? Wasn't long ago, a couple months ago, I'm driving around. Ralph's is a grocery store I go to. I'm driving around looking for a parking spot. There's like a big old Oldsmobile parked sideways. You wouldn't do that if you're 22, 32, 52. Guy walked out. He's like 92. What's he care? Going to yell at him? Going to give him going to give him a parking ticket at Ralph's? What's he care? He's not going to pay for it anyway. That's the great thing about getting old. Hey, you just don't care anymore. You don't care who you offend. There's two groups of people in America that really don't care what you think. Billionaires and old people. They don't care. And this is why the Dallas Cowboys, for years and years and years, didn't have any more suspended players than the average NFL team, weren't fined more than the average NFL team. But in the last 4 years, the Cowboys have had by far the most players suspended, forcing them to miss by far the most games in the NFL. 15 players suspended, missing a total of 100 games since 2014. What happened in 2014? Jerry Jones went into his 70s. And when men go into their 70s, it's bucket list time. It's I don't give a rip time. It's I don't care what you think about me time. It's about I want to get another ring, and I'll do it, and I don't care what you think. They have 2 playoff wins in 20 years, and Jerry is tired of it. And Jerry was always a risk taker. He always has been. But Jerry's gone from being a risk taker to I'm going to take kind of egregious risks because people in Dallas are addicted to the Cowboys. And I'm now not just a millionaire. I'm a 70-year-old billionaire. And the Cowboys brand, let's be honest, it's kind of the controversial brand of the NFL. And Jerry's never had more power. For years and years, Jerry was reluctant to talk about gambling. Jerry's the guy that got the Raiders now to move to Vegas. For years and years, Jerry and Stan Kroenke were friends. Stability. Jerry said, hell with it. Let's get the Rams to Los Angeles. Have you noticed what has happened in the last 4 years since Jerry's moved into his 70s? The Cowboys lead the NFL by a country mile on risks and suspensions and players missing games. Billionaires and rich old guys just don't care what people think. And Jerry no longer does. That explains it. So I was thinking about this morning. And nobody's mentioning this, and nobody's talking about this. But Christine, I think this is a real thing. I've talked about LeBron James and how there have been stages in LeBron's career, and stages in Steve Jobs' career, and stages in Steven Spielberg's career, stages in Jay-Z's career, stages in Kobe's career, Michael Jordan's career. They're all the same. There's the, look how damn talented I am. Okay, now let's win platinum records, Oscars, NBA titles. And the third one is, let's move into the mogul stage. LeBron has moved into that stage. Look how great I am. I got my titles. Now it's about basketball and beyond basketball. One of the things LeBron has done also in this third stage, which is pretty obvious, LeBron would like to reduce his regular season minutes. LeBron don't want to play 40 minutes a night. He'd like to play 30 minutes a night and be really, really fresh for the playoffs. It's one of the reasons LeBron likes the East. He can sweep those series. He can get extra days off. That's what LeBron wants now. He's moved into the mogul stage. It's all about legacy now. Basketball and legacy. So in recent years, LeBron's trying to cut back on regular season minutes, and he wants reliable teammates physically. Kyrie Irving knows this. This is where Kyrie Irving is a real nightmare for LeBron James. Who did the Cavaliers just pick up? Insurance policy for Kyrie Irving. Derrick Rose. Do you realize since 2011, Andrew Wiggins has played more games than Derrick Rose? And Andrew Wiggins didn't enter the NBA until 2014. He's played more than Derrick Rose. LeBron now demands dependability physically. D. Rose is not dependable. He demands ball movement. D. Rose doesn't believe in it. LeBron and D. Rose are not going to work. Who else has LeBron James in recent days worked out with? Did you see this story? Because there's not really a lot of guys out there. Eric Bledsoe. In the last 4 years, Eric Bledsoe has played 43 games, half a season, 81 games, 31 games, and 66 games. He's not dependable either. Nobody is talking about this. If Kyrie Irving is traded, even if you land Eric Bledsoe, you will have the opposite of what LeBron wants in his third stage. Players who are dependable, and he can have reduced minutes. This is now a chronically hurt, unreliable, oldest top 8 in the league. LeBron is looking for young legs, fresh legs, no injury history. Do you know the youngest roster in the NBA of their core top 8 players? Let's put it on the screen. It's the Lakers. Lonzo, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Jordan Clarkson, Josh Hart, Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, Julius Randle, Zubats, and Larry Nance Jr. Listen, this is not clickbait, but we know something to be true. LeBron's now moved into the mogul legacy stage. He's sitting out as many regular season games as he can. What he's seeking is guys that can carry the load. They just signed D. Rose. He's working out with Eric Bledsoe. For the next 4 to 5 years, that is the opposite of what LeBron wants. He wants young, fresh legs. He can have nights where he plays 31 minutes, other people star, and he is ready to roll in the postseason. Kyrie Irving knows this, and this is where Kyrie Irving has absolute leverage. A 25-year-old, hasn't been hurt much last couple of years, leaves town. LeBron is trapped. This is why these Laker rumors carry, in my opinion, a lot of weight. You know, and something else that I think about all the time, and this maybe this is selfish, but in a way it's not selfish, Christine, is that sports, I mean, it's entertainment, right? Like, it's business, but it's the entertainment business.
Yeah, it's entertainment.
Yeah, I mean, when you and I go out to a game, or you go out or I go out or whatever, we just want to be entertained. You go out, you have a beer, you have dinner with a friend. Let's just be honest and be totally selfish here. Kyrie to the Knicks is really entertaining, and LeBron to the Lakers is really entertaining, and Harbaugh to Michigan, and Calipari to Kentucky, and A-Rod to the Yankees, and Shaq to the Lakers, in the last 10 years has made sports way more interesting. Star plus relevant historic franchise is exciting. If you put Dak, Dez, and Zeke on the Jaguars, it's not the same as the Cowboys. So, I mean, there was a story about 3 weeks ago that came out in the trades. The trades is kind of the slang for, like, the Hollywood reporter Dateline and that stuff. And it was that Joe Pesci, De Niro, Pacino, and Scorsese and Harvey Keitel were going to star in a movie. They all agreed, finally, Pesci's kind of a recluse, to star in a movie about Jimmy Hoffa called The Irishman. And I can't wait for it. And it's similar. If Kyrie went to the Knicks and LeBron went to the Lakers, we all win here outside of Ohio. It's just better for sports. Harbaugh plus Michigan's fantastic. And the other thing is the Cavs are no longer the underdog story. That was the hook. They won. It's like the Cubs ratings are down in Chicago this year. Not nationally. They're down in Chicago 28%. Nobody wants to watch Rudy 2. You know what I mean? It's like the Cubs won. The hook was the underdog. Now I want to see the Yankees win. Like the Cavs won. The Cubs won. Now let's get interesting. Let's see the Yankees dominate Celtics-Lakers. And, so I don't know. I said it last year. Remember during the World Series, I kept saying, you do realize it's better if the Cubs lose to the Indians for the next 2 years. And it keeps teasing us, breaking our heart. For us at Fox, nobody would say it out loud. But after the Cubs won, it was great in the moment. But then it's over. And even in Chicago, the ratings are down almost 30%. And so just selfishly, if Kyrie left to the Knicks with Porzingis, NBA basketball would be huge in New York again. Great for the league, great for fans. I love watching great basketball in New York. It just feels different. We still got 40 minutes of show left.
Are you going to be okay?
I am going to be okay. I'm going to get into Nick Saban here in about 10 minutes with Robert Smith. I am voting. I am strongly considering Nick Saban for president in 2020.
Yeah, you mean President Saban.
Because Nick Saban had the guts to say this yesterday about all these early preseason games against trucking schools.
I wish that we would play all Power 5 schools. There would be no playing any school from 1AA that's not in a Power 5 conference. Just like in the NFL, you play all NFL teams. Right. You don't play 3 teams from Canada or the Canadian League or whatever so you can get your record good enough so you can go to a bowl game. And I think there would be more fan interest. I think it would be better for TV. I think that you could lose more than one game and still have the opportunity to get in the playoff. And maybe if that were the case and we did that, people wouldn't be so worried about winning 6 games to go to a bowl game. And maybe we'd expand the playoff, which would even create more interest.
A vote for Saban is a vote for vision. Unequivocal, strong points of view. How about David Shaw could be his running mate? I like David Shaw, too. David Shaw had the guts to come out and say, you shouldn't pay college football players.
I don't think that David Shaw would agree to be vice president.
Yeah.
He strikes me as
more
of a
presidential.
President. Yes.
But they're both willing to say unpopular things. Saban.
Yeah. I think that Saban would be good as the guy in charge of war. Who's that?
The defense secretary?
Secretary of Defense?
Yeah.
Yeah. He'd be good at that.
Yeah.
David Shaw would be the president.
David Shaw,
Bill Belichick would be the press secretary.
He'd be terrific. I like anybody that's willing to say something that you can argue, but it's unpopular. Like Nick Saban's like, we shouldn't be playing these Mercers. And that's unpopular. Nobody wants to say that because it hurts those schools. I went to one of those schools. And David Shaw came out and said something that was really unpopular, but he said, since when do you go to college to make money? You go to college to learn how to make money. Why are we paying college football players? Everybody say, whoa! And it's like, yeah, do we pay interns? Do we pay? I mean, look at the world. 19, 20, 21, it's never been about money. It's been about opportunity. Like my mom, I remember sitting down with my late mother, Patricia, and I was in college, and I had like a semester to go. And I went to the baseball winter meetings, drove down there, and I came back, and I was called on the phone. I remember where I was sitting by a guy named Don Logan, who was the assistant general manager of a team in Las Vegas. And he offered me an account executive job, basically to sweep the floors and stuff. And I looked at my mom, and she's like, well, that sounds like a really good opportunity. It paid nothing. I said, it doesn't pay anything. And she's like, well, it's a good opportunity. When you're 18, 19, 20, it's not about money. Don't worry about money. Do stuff for free if you have to. Just get in a room. Internships you just get in the room.
I think now you have to pay interns. I think it's changing.
Are we paying our interns?
I think there's a rule.
Greg, are we paying our interns?
Not that I know of, no.
I do think that interns have to be paid now.
I hope we're not paying them much.
Why? They do a great job. Yeah, and we do pay our interns.
Are you just somebody
This
talking in your
just
ear?
in. We do. Yeah.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Is it like a federal thing?
Well, no, it's a legal thing. I remember it happened right after I was done interning back then, and then in the years after that, there's laws that have passed that you have to pay them.
Yeah.
Because what happened with a lot of interns is they would go and they weren't getting any experience. They were just kind of like getting the coffee.
John, what was your opinion on that?
It should be a lot more useful then.
Yeah, no kidding.
No, well, we should. That's on us.
It's not. It's on those lazy interns.
No, you got to teach them. That's what they're coming to do, not free labor, meaningless labor.
I'd like to be more meaningful.
Maybe you should have a sit-down meeting with the interns once a week.
Oh, good God. I don't like sit-down meetings with management. Have that with interns?
Yeah. Teach them your ways.
Christine
Teach your
with the news.
cowherd.
Oh, great.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herdline News.
Have you heard about this story? It's cracking me up. Julio Jones was jet skiing around a lake, and apparently he hit a wave a little too hard and realized that he lost his earring at the bottom of the lake. So he has now hired a dive team to go recover one of his earrings that is 65 feet below the surface.
That must be expensive.
Yeah, how much does the dive team cost?
Yeah.
Is it worth it?
Have you ever jet skied?
Yes.
I did it last week.
For the first time?
No. I've done it before. God, it was fun. Lake Jordanelle in Utah.
I have a real problem with jet skiing.
Why?
I don't really think I should tell you.
Okay.
But I'll just say this. When you're squeezing like the
handles.
Yeah, the handles, and that's how you go faster or slower.
Yeah.
I cannot gradually let go of the handle, so it's either you're like full speed or stopped, which can create some problems.
It's fun.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like your hand, you have to like gradually be able to let go of the grip.
Every normal person I know can do that.
I don't know. I have a real problem with the jet skis.
Okay.
Also, but if you were one of the divers, would you not just keep the earring if you found it?
How do you find an earring
I don't
in
know.
a
Maybe you have
dirty
like a
lake?
metal detector in the bottom of the lake or something. Well, this has caused other people to come forward in the NFL about jewelry they've lost. And this is from David Irving from the Cowboys. You're going to laugh at me. But he said that he lost his nipple ring during the day's workout for the Cowboys.
Why would it?
At practice.
Why do guys wear those?
That's exactly what I thought. Why do you have that in the first place? And most importantly, why are you wearing it at practice?
Do you know who had one of those?
Who?
You ever see Silence of the Lambs, Buffalo Bill?
Always you go back to Silence
You rub
of the
your
Lambs.
lotion on the Skid Row to get the hose again. Yeah, that's weird. I don't like wearing those things.
I would imagine when you get hit in practice, that would really hurt. Like, why are you... That's on you for losing your ring while you're jet skiing or at practice. And finally, I don't know why somebody was doing this. Part of our staff, actually, was Googling the New York Jets owner.
What?
Yeah.
Can I do it right now?
This is what happens when you go to Google. You Google New York Jets owner, and look what happens. Tom Brady is the New York Jets owner. I have no idea why this is happening, or who did it, or why someone on our staff was Googling who the New York Jets owner was. But
probably one of our interns.
Probably one of the interns. But it is pretty funny that Tom Brady currently. And I tried this myself on my computer. You could do it at home. Tom Brady is the New York Jets owner, which might be true.
That's actually very funny.
It's very funny.
Christine with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herdline
Can we put
News.
Nick Saban's picture up? Nick Saban.
Somebody do
I
that.
am on the Nick Saban. Maybe it's Nick Saban, Bernie Sanders, Nick Saban, David Shaw, Nick Saban, Mike Pence. Nick Saban, President 2020. Because Nick Saban's willing to be brutally honest. Look at that. Come on, Robert Smith. Get up here. Former NFLer, college football star at Ohio State College, football analyst for Fox. Look at that. That's a man with vision. Get rid of these FCF garbage games. What are you, I hear you.
Presidential. Well, wait a second. First of all, I don't have a nipple ring or any other piercings, but I thought that conversation was pretty interesting.
So did I.
I'm glad you liked that.
What do you? So Klatt comes in here and he's like, "Oh gosh, what'll happen to Mercer and Chattanooga?" And my thing is, well, I don't know what happens to them. They're basketball programs. Well, why is it Alabama and LSU and USC and Oklahoma and Ohio State's responsibility to save Chattanooga?
Well, it's not necessarily their responsibility, but I don't like the idea of Power 5 just versus Power 5.
Why not?
Just because who's going to be the Power 5? First of all, it depends on who's scheduling who. It's not like the NFL where you have a balanced schedule where, okay, the AFC East is going to play the NFC North.
First place schedule.
Exactly. You're not going to be able to do that. When you schedule a team, they certainly may not be the same team when you actually get around to playing them.
So you're saying you're still having unbalanced schedules.
Yeah.
But now, Robert, it's really bad. I mean, these SEC schools for the last decade, I mean, Alabama just doesn't play 2 good games back-to-back. They got to buy. They're really manipulating the system.
You think Alabama's manipulating?
I think the SEC manipulates the system. Like Big Ten this year. Mm-hmm. Wisconsin's good. And Michigan's good. And Penn State's good. And Ohio State's good. And by the way, Nebraska's going to be better than they think.
That Tanner Lee kid's a good
big-time play.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan State's viable. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to play 3 straight games. And Iowa, if you go to Iowa, that's always a competitive game.
Right.
I mean, to me, I don't like all this cherry picking Mercer and I love Saban, but good God, does he manipulate the schedule?
Well, it's kind of odd talk coming from him, though, don't you think? But then again, we heard him say 3-4 years ago that he was worried about the pace of play and the number of plays and the potential danger for defensive players. Then, of course, he brings in the hurry up, no huddle like everybody else. Right. So maybe it's just him being Nick Saban. He's just going out to, yeah, exactly. And I think he enjoys this in the same way that Bill Belichick does, a lot more than people understand, because this is a game to him. He's always going to get his 8-9 first rounders a year. He knows he's going to have a great team. So he likes to go out and he likes to play with the media a little bit. He likes to make the joke about Cokes and all that kind of stuff at the press conferences. This is Nick Saban's world, and we're just living in it.
Yeah, Nick Saban once told a friend of mine that he was saying, hey, listen, you guys compare me to Belichick. He goes, I have a lot more personality than Belichick. And Saban has also told people, I know he's told his agent Jimmy Sexton this, and I've heard it through an intermediary, that Nick's going to do TV eventually. And he has told people, I don't want to wait 2 or 3 extra years, get thrown out like a Mac Brown.
Right.
Or, there's a time, Bobby Bowden. So, Nick's going to do TV, and he's going to be really good at it. So you make a point.
But honestly, Colin, can you think of the time, and in the next 5 years, that it would be anything close to what happened at the end of Bobby Bowden or the end of Mac Brown?
No.
It's an absolute machine there.
He looks great, too. Nick's a young 65.
He's a young 65, but the program itself, though, it's recruiting for itself to a degree that's really it's unprecedented, and I don't see the end of it. He's going to leave when he wants to leave, and it won't be because they're on the downslide.
So I was always known as a Big Ten hater, but I do believe the geographical footprint does not produce the recruits of Georgia, California, Texas.
No question.
And so about 6 years ago, Kirk Herbstreit and I would talk about this, and I'm like, I'm not trying to be a hater, Kirk, but they're going to these bowl games, and they look slow. Mm-hmm. And they were being housed in bowl games. And then they said, we're going to pay for coaches, James Franklin, Harbaugh, Urban. And they all went down to Texas and California. These Big Ten schools are now in California, cherry-picking guys, Florida. I look at the Big Ten today. And because they've been willing to spend money on coaching, and I really believe this, not because we have their games, I think this year is the best conference, Robert. I really do.
Yeah.
Who's the second best team in the SEC?
Auburn.
Come on now.
Yeah.
They have been a mess defensively for 5 years.
Yeah, well, I think Stidham's going to make a difference.
The quarterback.
Stidham coming in from Baylor is going to make a big difference.
You're saying Auburn.
Yeah.
Is Auburn on anybody's top 10 list in the country? Wisconsin is, Michigan is, Penn State is.
Yeah.
I think that, listen, coaching matters in college football.
It really does. And I think you're right, though. It was because the coaches weren't being paid.
They weren't.
And I think that the network has a lot to do with that as well. The programs are really just flush with cash.
Yeah.
And they've made the decision that we need to be able to pay on these assistants, because you have the head coaches, and the head coaches are saying, I can't keep these guys. I can't keep these staffs together. These guys are going to go off, and they're going to want to go coach coach other places. A la Brett Bielema saying, "Look, I'm not going to be able to keep my staff."
That's why I left.
I'm bolting. I'm going to go down to the SEC where we can pay these coaches. So I think that's been a huge part of it. I think that the decisions that they made, Jim Delaney and the rest of the Big Ten, they made really good decisions on the launch of the Big Ten Network.
Yes.
And that the money that they've been able to generate has allowed them to really kind of expand their footprint in recruiting via the route of paying for the coaches.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I want to put you in another hat. You're an agent.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Smith, smart guy, played the game, played NFL. You're an agent, and your client is Sam Darnold.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't want to overly project, but he's pretty darn good,
right?
And at the end of this year, he's going to let's just throw it out. Let's say he goes 11-2, 30 touchdowns, 7 picks, 65%. I mean that those were Andrew Luck's numbers, and Andrew came back. So I'm going to throw this out there. You're the agent for Sam Darnold, and he's very good. And Cleveland has the number 1 pick. Now, I said this about Deshaun Watson, although he doesn't project as good as an NFL player. I believe in the NBA, the only American athletes that have the leverage of NBA stars are quarterbacks. And I think quarterbacks' agents have done them a disservice. They never hold out. Ever. Marginal NBA guys dictate terms. If you're Sam Darnold, Cleveland's got the number 1 pick, knowing their dysfunction, would you tell them to come back to school?
Wow. So you go through the season, Cleveland's got the number 1 pick. Should Sam Darnold come back to school?
You're his agent.
Yeah, but...
Because by the way, Robert, take out Drew Brees.
Yeah.
If the first stop's bad, it defines your career.
Yeah, but there are too many uncertainties, though, for me. I mean, you're talking about a guy that played 2 years in college and decided to leave. So for me, there's too much uncertainty, and the more hits you take for free, the less you make at the next level. And running back obviously is a little bit different than quarterback. But then again, you don't know who's going to have that number 1 pick the following year. You don't know that you don't get that career-ending injury in training camp the next year in college. So no, if I'm his agent, I truly believe he's ready to go. I don't care who has that number 1 pick. Maybe you use that leverage in a different way, with the team. I don't know. But to me, I don't think you make the decision to go back to school based on who has the number 1 pick. If you're ready to go, you make the decision to leave.
You've always had opinions on social issues. Colin Kaepernick looks like, I've said before, I think he's Tebow with a political cause. Yeah. I'm not building my franchise around him, but 69 guys last year took a snap.
Yeah.
He's probably going to take a snap. It's fine with me. I'm okay. Certain cities like Seattle and their social environment's probably easier than Dallas and their social environment. What do you make of Kaepernick?
Well, this one's been really interesting. I've been able to watch all of your shows and all of the different conversations about this, and I think to me, it's unfortunate that Michael Vick's comments, were what they were about Colin's hair, because the rest of his message got lost. And the rest of the message was that it's not that he's not on a roster because of the social stance. It's because they don't think that he wants to play or that he's dedicated to play.
I think that's a fair criticism of Colin.
I think it is too, and that's the way that I see his situation. And look, this is the bottom line. For people that want it to be part of their narrative, it doesn't matter what kind of evidence is out there. The reason that they say he won't be on a roster is because of what fits with what they want to believe, which is part of their narrative. So that's what they're going to stick to. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that a guy with the credibility and the knowledge of a Michael Vick on the situation of playing quarterback in the NFL is telling you that the reason he's not on a roster has nothing to do with a social stance. But that's just what people are going to believe.
But I do think the Kaepernick thing, and I've said this, quarterback is the one guy in football that walks into a huddle and talks.
Yeah.
You're a quarterback. You walk into a huddle, and everybody just turns to the quarterback. Quarterbacks talk. Mm-hmm. Colin hasn't had a press conference in a year. Mm-hmm. I don't know what he likes. I look at his social media. I think he's more into politics.
Yeah.
I think he should have held a press conference and said, listen, I know I have some political stances. Right. I love the game. I'm going to work my arse off, and I can't wait to play. I'm not sure he loves football.
I'm not sure he does either. And look, we've seen too many times in the NFL, we've seen guys that have been taken onto teams as free agents with a lot more baggage, with a lot more risk to the team taking a guy on. If they think he can play and they think that he is willing, more importantly, to learn the new system, and to be a part of the team and get ready to play quarterback, they're going to bring that guy in. We know the value of quarterbacks.
Because he can win you games.
I just don't see it.
Yeah, I just wish Colin would be more vocal, because I do believe that we look to certain athletes to talk. NBA star, hold a press conference.
Absolutely.
College football coach, Nick Saban, hold a press conference. Quarterbacks, talk. It's a talking verbal position.
And look, I've got no problem with him taking the stance. There are parts of the stance that I think he hasn't done a great job of really kind of explaining all
his messaging,
all of the elements of the issues.
Yes.
But at the same time, I am all for guys taking social stances, so long as you're thorough and kind of what you've investigated about the issues yourself. But at quarterback, you've got to know that guy is going to be ready and willing to do everything that he needs. It's not like running back. It's funny. I remember Joe Theismann, saying some things. Oh, this guy's spending too much time, looking at the stars and things like that. It's kind of funny. But look, it's a running back. It's the easiest position to make the transition, and it's the easiest position when you're playing it on offense. You just don't have to know it the same way. Quarterback is completely different. You got to know everything about where everybody's supposed to be
on every play.
On every play, that's what you have to be. You have to be willing to prepare at a completely different level than at any other position. And I don't think, for good reason, that many teams believe he's willing to do that.
Good seeing you, bud.
Good seeing you, man.
Robert Smith, it's the Herd. If you're looking to sell your car, a lot of people are. There's a new, better way to do it with TrueCar. Fast, easy. Go to TrueCar.com/trade today. You'll know the prices before you do the trade. Man, we've had a good show today. Doug Gottlieb, Joel Klatt, Tim Kalishaw was live at the Dallas Cowboys camp, and Robert Smith just joined us today. It's so exciting now. You can feel it now. The camps are opening up. It's very exciting.
Do you know what I just found out? This is totally off subject. It's
what?
National Intern Day.
Is it really?
Yeah, how weird is that?
Were you ever an intern?
I was not here, obviously, but I was an intern at a lot of places. I actually convinced my professor to cheat the system so I could intern more.
Yeah.
I was that kind of nerd.
Yeah, no, the interns are very valuable. I mean, somebody's got to get my coffee. Boom! Just kidding. Total joke.
I never got someone's coffee.
No, I mean, internships are about opportunity. They're not about money. They're about opportunity.
Yeah.
That's why I always say about college athletes, everybody wants them to get paid. Timeout is we're not giving college athletes, first of all, who are the only people that leave a college campus with no debt? Scholarship people. Do you know what a gift that is? Let's say you and I go to college, and I leave with no debt, and you leave with $165,000 debt. I can buy a car and a house before you can. That will affect our net worth for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, probably.
I will be able to buy a house at 27. You won't, because you have a $480 college debt payment. It completely disrupts your life. It's why they say a lot of people aren't going into, a lot of young, smart kids, men and women, are not going into medical school because they come out with $275,000 of debt. They're better off going to Wall Street, leaving college after 4 years, and going. And it's hurting the entire ecosystem of our medical field is being hurt because kids leave with college debt. And you know what's happening in America is that young doctors don't want to go to rural communities.
That and the value of a college degree isn't as strong anymore. There are a lot of successful people who don't have a degree, so don't even go to college.
Yeah,
it's just different now.
That's the one thing that where the columnists and the media narrative, when people say, athletes are being used, every single parent I know, and my friends, they do fine. They're not, I got a stay-at-home dad buddy. I got guys that do regular stuff. I got one or two guys that have bigger jobs. But do you know how, if our kids got college scholarships, how lucky we would feel? And I think my neighborhood's probably a little nicer than the average American neighborhood on average. we'd feel. Are you kidding me? If somebody said Oregon free, come on. I mean, it's like suddenly we've marginalized a college scholarship to, you're being a servant to the university. You get a free. Ask all your friends if your two daughters could get a free college ride to Oregon, Wisconsin, Georgia Tech. Do you know what kind of opportunity that is? Like, we've lost sight of this whole thing about paying college athletes. One of the things I've always believed in, from a digital reimbursement standpoint, like let's say you're Johnny Manziel, Vince Young, Reggie Bush, Anthony Davis. Like, you're kind of this transformative college kid, and there are not many of them. There's about one every 3 years in college sports, football and basketball, where like Tebow made the school $5 million. I think you should give kids, those college athletes, when they leave, write them a check. And I also believe that if you play Division I football, first of all, I'd privatize it, but if you can't, I do believe you should, pay for 8-10 years of insurance potentially. I'm for that. But the idea they're being ripped off, you got to be. What world do the coastal elite media live in? What galaxy is a college opportunity, college scholarship, not a terrific opportunity? In my neighborhood, if you said tomorrow, Arizona State, free ride, Tulsa, free ride, sign it up today. Not to mention, because of the standards being increased, college basketball guys now, I talked to Mark Few at Gonzaga about this, the coach there. And, he was saying, man, we have chefs after practice now because of the nutritional requirements. Chefs after practice. Do you know what I ate in college? When I did, top ramen or that
ramen's great.
It was then. And by the way, he goes, my kids have 20 pair of shoes in their lockers. He goes, that's the standard for guys. So I know we've made this whole about, paying athletes. That's why I like Saban or Robert Smith or people, David Shaw. College is not to make money. It's to learn how to make money. And do you know how much it costs to go? And by the way, Stanford's not the only good university. You know how much it costs to go to Michigan? You know how much it costs to go to Vanderbilt, Stanford, Notre Dame? Out-of-state tuition? Holy gay! USC now is like $55,000 a year. Your kid can redshirt, get 4 years. That is an incredible opportunity. So there you go. RJ Bell in studio tomorrow. He's going to lay out some kind of Vegas over-unders. What are all the wise guys saying about the NFL year? We're very excited for that. Doug Gottlieb earlier today. I, of course, think Kyrie's nuts wanting out of Cleveland. Christine and Doug Gottlieb and Rob Parker, they think Kyrie should leave Cleveland. Here was Gottlieb earlier today.
This happens in industries. Did Kyrie Irving, what kind of year did he have? He was the most consistent player on the Cleveland Cavaliers. He averaged 25 when they won, 25 when they lost. Every day, just check in, 25 points a game. But he wasn't recognized by the media as being one of the elites of the league, and he probably doesn't feel like he's recognized in that locker room as being an alpha. He wants to do his own thing.
I know. That sounds right until you know you're leaving LeBron and you're leaving a guaranteed trip to the finals. That's well said.
I think you're holding on to LeBron a little too tight here.
You've always thought I've been too LeBron friendly.
I think that you put blinders on sometimes to the reality of LeBron. Mm-hmm.
Like what kind of blinders?
I think that whenever he does something questionable or that shows that he's maybe not as good of a leader as he thought, or he doesn't have that real grit in him, you don't want to see that because you see that you like him, you're a fan of his.
I am a fan of somebody who had a tough upbringing and has been a, by and large, model citizen. I think that's an amazing story. And I thought the media crushed him for the decision, which was, by the way, 7 years in Cleveland. They couldn't get him a second decent player. He's like, I'm out of here.
But what about now? Like some of the stuff that he's like, you have to call it how it is.
He's a little
There's
passive.
Some great things. He's passive aggressive.
Okay, list the criticisms of LeBron. He's a little passive aggressive.
He's passive aggressive.
Okay, what's the second bad thing?
He picks and chooses when he wants to be a leader.
Don't we all?
No.
Isn't that how most, sometimes?
No.
All right, so what's your third criticism?
He doesn't have, like, a real grit in him.
Oh, good Lord.
Like a real fight.
You had me going there, and then you just lost me on that one. All right, theherdnow.com. Check it out. Speak for yourself. We're on a little later today. RJ Bell is in studio tomorrow. Good stuff. See you tomorrow. It's The Herd.